Hello and welcome to Mansfield Park. What a game we have in prospect today. A border derby, probably the biggest border derby in 10 years. It's the Premiership playoff semi-final. It's between Hawick and Kelso. The prize is a place in the final against Purdie or Mar. Let's join our commentary team, Robin Purdie, and first, Dale Clancy.
Yeah, good afternoon and welcome along to Mansfield Park. And after the discussions there about the scars that have been inflicted on the national game, none of that is evident here at Mansfield Park this afternoon for what is going to be a historic game between Hawick and Kelso. Kelso, who finished the regular season in fourth, managed to squeeze into the last playoff position, are going to start this game with Archie Barber at fullback, James Thompson and Robbie Tweedy on the wings, captained by Frankie Robson in the centre with their top point scorer Dwayne Patterson at outside centre. Andy Tate and Murray Hastie are the familiar half-back pairing. In the front row, Grant Shields returns to partner Ewan Knox and Terry Logan, along with Cammy Thompson and Keith Melbourne in the middle row, and then Murray Woodcock, Cammy Brown and the familiar face of Bruce MvNeil line up in the back row for Kelso. And now it's the time for the home side, Hawick, to march onto the field, led by their experienced and influential captain Shawn Muir, and he's going to start in the front row along with Fraser Rennick and Nicky Little. Fraser Wilson and Dalton Redpath are the middle row pairing, with Stuart Graham, Callum Rennick and Jay Linton in the back row. They were going to start with backs with Gareth Welsh and Kyle Brunton, the half-back pairing for the cup final against Mar at Murrayfield, and then the wingers of Ronan McKean, Charlie Welsh, the centres of Lee Armstrong and Andrew Mitchell, and then the influential figure of Kurt Ford at fullback. The match official for this afternoon is going to be Rob McDowell, and he's just about to get us underway. There's a shrill of the whistle from the match official. Dwayne Patterson licks the ball with his right foot and lumps it downfield towards the club end here, and it's been gathered by Charlie Welsh, who straddles the touchline and tries to evade his way out of trouble and get himself out of his own 22. Now tipped on to Shawn Muir, who's been asked to trudge it up, and the ball gifted back to Gareth Welsh at scrum half, and Kyle Brunton now nudges it downfield off the field of play just outside the 22, and it's a good start from Kelso.
Yeah, tidy stuff by both teams actually. Kelso will have the line out in a reasonable attacking position, and I have to say, Dale, the crowd today, this, you know, there's pros and cons playoff rugby, but this is what playoff rugby is about. I think there's as many people in this stand as there was in the final last year, Dale, to be honest, and that's saying something. Yeah,
definitely. You know, it's one of those games, and in horrible weather as well. The banking side on the far side is littered with spectators. The stand is packed and the ball is back in play because it's been thrown into the line out by Ewan Knox. It's been well gathered and brought down, and the maul is starting to form, and Kelso are looking to try and get an early tester of their opposition and see what they've got in fortitude up front. It's congested, it's been brought back into the nucleus of the maul, but distributed from Tate, who finds Hastie out the back. The wingers are starting to run into play, and it's been absolutely shackled there by Callum Rennick, who manages to wrap up Robin Tweedy. Now Bruce MvNeil round the side of that ruck manages to gather the ball now into the hands of Cammy Thompson, blue skull cap and all, and he trudges forward, but again met with some stern Hawick resistance. Keith Melbourne, who's going to be a key figure in this game, is brought to deck, and the Hawick players get their mitts in there to try and steal the ball, but not able to. Now Hastie has it. Patterson has to gather a ball which was stooping and was low, and now it's been filtered to Woodcock on the wing. He almost gets round the outside of the Charlie Welsh, but that is a textbook tackle from the winger. Tate gets across well and works hard to give the ball to Grant Shields now, who carries forward. Again, another experienced figurehead in this Kelso side. Patterson and Tweedy line up on the blind side and try to exploit some gaps there, but it's been plugged there by Nicky Little as the ball just squirms out of the breakdown. Tate thinks he sees a little gap there, tries to exploit that, but not able to again as the Hawick defence stands firm. Now Terry Logan, ball tucked under his left arm and trudges forward, and Hastie, acting as auxiliary scrum half, gives it to Patterson, who puts a really soft, delicate kick in it forward, and he is under all sorts of pressure in behind. He does well to gather it at the second attempt. Keith Melbourne was putting a bit of pressure on the Hawick fullback, and I think in the many years I've been doing the commentary, it's perhaps one of the first errors I've ever seen Kurt Ford make. But he's done well and gathers the ball. Hawick now deep inside their own 22 have possession back, and Gareth Welsh can distribute to Brunton, who can then right-footed kick downfield. He kept it in the field of play, and loitering on the 10-metre line is Dwayne Patterson of Kelso. He just looks to go alone, and he looks to go around the outside of Welsh, but the tackle, he's knocked the ball on. Muir has got a chance to get the ball wide, and it's now Lee Armstrong, a little kick of the heels, and he manages to escape the clutches of his own 22. But Hawick, for the first time in this game, have possession outside of their 22 area. It's been passed back into Brunton in a spiral kick downfield. Waiting in behind is Barber, and he's got Patterson there as well. Some options there as the low stabbing kick is trundling its way back towards that touchline inside the Hawick 22, but Kirkford is there, and right-footed kick returned, and it looks like this is etched every last little bit of distance out of that kick, and it's exited the field of play over the halfway line, and good exit there from Kirkford. Kelso throwing the line out, Woodcock gathers, and Hasty now gets the ball off the top, distributes the ball to Robson, who gets a head of steam and is able to just barge his way over the halfway line. It's still 0-0 here, and 3.5 minutes gone as Melbourne comes round the ruck, and he's towering above that challenge, but does well to cuddle into the ball and protect it. Logan coming round the corner, look to try and gather the ball, and Hasty under a lot of pressure is just lumped into the sky. There's still a little bit of afters there as well. The match official's not having a look at that. It's Mitchell, and they're just keeping an eye on that as Barber has got the ball back in the 22, and it's dusty and it's feisty now because the Kelso players and the Kelso and Hawick players now all in together. Bruce MvNeil has just went for Shawn Muir. There's a little bit on the ground as well, because in the aftermath of Murray Hasty kicking the ball, Andrew Mitchell was still in there, and he was alongside. I think it was perhaps Fraser Rennick who was the other player in there as well, but it's boiled over here now at Mansfield Park. Keith Melbourne, Frankie Robson have got a couple of backs. There's another one, Charlie Welsh joining the fray, but the referee's done well to disperse this.
I'll speak to you in a minute. I'll speak to you in a minute. Have you seen what started the melee?
It's just guys pushing and pulling on the ground that has started it.
So what's happened then, after it's coming to an end when I blew my whistle, 6 Black has ran in, he's pushed the Hawick player, and that's what's caused the escalation to the all-in. So there's going to be a penalty against 6 Black.
I agree.
Just here.
Yeah, before I had no sanctionable foul play prior to his arrival.
Restart penalty against 6 Black, Captains!
This is going to be an interesting conversation between the match official and the captain, Shawn Muir, and Frankie Robson now making his way across to discuss matters.
Okay, we've had a bit of a coming together, which has caused the game to be stopped. That's not really acceptable. That is coming to an end, and then 6 Black runs in, pushes the Hawick player, which has caused the all-in. So the sanction's going to be penalty against 6 Black.
The referee's just signalling to both captains there as the reception was just dropping in and out. As Bruce MvNeil is the player being penalised, he's still gesturing to Callum Worsley, the assistant referee on the side, but he came out of absolutely nowhere, Bruce MvNeil, in plain sight of the match officials. You know, shoved Shawn Muir it was, and it's turned a penalty, because if anything it looked like Hawick were perhaps going to be infringing more than what Kelso were.
Yeah, I think there was the initial rammy that involved Andrew Mitchell, I think it was, from Hawick, and Murray Hasty from Kelso, but I think Bruce MvNeil's a lucky boy there, Dale. He ran in from afar, and he put a wee bit of a cheap one, to be honest, on Shawn Muir, who was fairly passive at the time. So yeah, maybe got away with one there, Kelso.
Fraser Rennick throws into line out, he goes to the tail, the ball's just squirmed through the hands, but well grabbed there eventually by Wilson, who was running around the corner. Now Dalton Redpath thinks he spots a little gap and tries to offload, but it's been knocked on in contact, and it's the first real test of Kelso in defence, and it's certainly past that one. They're playing for a chance to either host or participate in the Premiership final. Hawick, if they get through this, will be able to host either Mar or Curry. Kelso will have to travel to either venue if they're victors and inflict a very surprising victory over this home side, and from that ensuing scrum, Hawick have been able to put the squeeze on, win the penalty, and this is where it's interesting. It's cup rugby, and there's an opportunity to escape with points as Kirkford just lines it up. Blob on in front of the uprights, kicking away from the clubhouse end here at Mansfield Park. A slow, steady run up, right-footed kick, and just nudges it over, and signalling when they're going to collide together, as they have done now. Brown just pressuring all his weight on that pack so he can stoop down and grab the ball and distribute to Robson, who propels himself forward. Coming round the corner now is a chance for Cammy Thompson to ask some questions of this Hawick defence. The support very slow to get there for Kelso, but the referee has spotted that Lee Armstrong has just popped his hands on the ground trying to turn over ahead of the ball. Standing directly in front of that is the green wall of the Hawick men, and right-footed kick is accurate this time, and the Kelso spectators, who have not travelled far, have greeted that with a round of applause, and we're all square here. Kirkford restarts with a right-footed kick downfield. It's went over the head of Brown and then into Hasty, and then a charge there from this battle between Murray Hasty and Andrew Mitchell is going to be a tasty one, because there's a little bit of a late nudge there from the Hawick outside centre. maybe not the titanic battle that we were expecting, but it's certainly one to keep an eye on as Fraser Rennick now carries forward. He's been gifted the ball from his scrum half, and he's been met with some resistance from this Kelso defence. Gareth Welsh to Kyle Brunton. The ball is ricocheted into the hands of Frankie Robson. It's still going back, and Andy Tate with a delicate little chip into the hands of Tweedy, who manages to find Barber. Now he's a player that can unlock many a defence in this league, and he's been able to just evade some uncharted territory there. 7 tries so far this season for the fullback, but not getting closer to one thus far. Hasty distributes to Terry Logan, who cuts back in field. Gareth Welsh has to wrap round the ginormous leg of the Kelso front row forward. Melbourne picks and goes and takes it a couple of metres closer towards that Hawick 22. Andy Tate now thinks he sees some space in behind, but the referee has signalled there's a little bit of holding on there. I think it's Melbourne who's been penalised, but again, there's these little errors and these little nerves. You said before when you were down at touch side that there was a steeliness from this Hawick side, and you wonder sometimes you can be far too focused.
Possibly, yeah. They certainly, when I've seen them emerge from the dressing room after their kind of pre-match meeting, if you like, they certainly had a steely look about them. But yeah, tell you what, it's really niggly out there. There was a wee bit of afters after a ruck a few phases ago as well, and yeah, just this game could come down to who keeps the most amount of players on the park for the longest amount of time.
Fraser Rennick just directly in front of us now to throw back into the line out over the heads of the Kelso jumpers. Finds Stuart Graham, and now Brunton manages to find Jay Linton, who's been relatively quiet in these opening 18 minutes or so. Probably an indicator of how little ball Hawick have had as Brunton gets the ball on the 10-metre line, kicks downfield, and I think this perhaps signals a different type of play from Hawick, knowing that it's more of a cup tie this than their traditional regular league battle. As the ball returned downfield to Brunton, he sizes up his options and lumps it into the sky again. Cammy Brown is screaming on this ball, and he's not going to be kicking it anyways. He just charges forward. Brunton with a brilliant challenge there. There was a little bit of movement in the air, but I think perhaps that was more from the ball carrier as opposed to the tackler, and Bruce MvNeil just picks and goes and charges forward. Gareth Welsh is then escorted off the ball slowly by the Kelso players, who are taking a little bit longer to get to the breakdown than perhaps what their counterparts are. Dwayne Patterson puts it into the sky, a very testing and telling up and under a spiral bomb there, as Lee Armstrong has to go back and gather on his own goal line. He looks to try and kick downfield, and it's not managed to find touch, and it's now Dwayne Patterson just outside the 22. He beats one man, then looks to beat another, and he's been held up on the 22-metre line, and this is going to be a difficult ball to win back for Kelso, but they do a great job of that because Patterson has managed just to present that back. Now Woodcock charges forward, pirouettes out of the danger area there as the Hawick defenders get across. Now Tate's got some options. One of them's Knox. Knox manages to go round the back of Terry Logan, who was running that acute line, and now Tate sizing up his options inside of the Hawick 22. Keith Melbourne, the big Irish tower in second row, just gets the knees up and takes the ball forward another couple of hard-earned metres as Hasty gives the ball out the back to Tweedy. Tweedy gives it to Barber. Barber's now got Brown coming that acute line, showing his skill set from his time on the wing as he bounces infield, then back out as Bruce MvNeil now plucks the ball from that ruck breakdown. He's dished the ball back, and then Welsh almost tried to gather that ball, but he's knocked it on in contact. But I think the referee has not spotted that and let that play, but it's still come back on the side of Kelso. It's a bit of a melee in there. I think the feet, perhaps, players coming round from the side, and Kelso win the penalty. And this is going to be an interesting call as well. A kicker as adept as Dwayne Patterson might just want to nudge this into the corner. Ewan Knox ready to throw in. He tries to get the ball to Cammy Brown, but has been flat back by the big mitt of Wilson there. He does well from a Hawick side in a dangerous position to flap it back as well, because there could have been a charging Kelso player coming through, but well gathered by Welsh. And then Shawn Muir looks to try and truck it forward. He's been met with some really good Kelso resistance yet again. They're trying to get certainly under the skin of Bruce MvNeil, because they're chucking him back into this ruck. They're getting him into the breakdown when he's off the ball, and it's definitely a little tactic of Hawick as they give the ball back to Kirk Ford, and he kicks it downfield. He's not made a great amount of distance, but he was under a little bit of pressure there from Cammy Thompson. Kelso going through the phases here and playing really well, being able to just protect that ball as Woodcock takes the ball back inside from Murray Hasty. Now Tate almost runs up an alley, but has been tackled there by his opposite number, Gareth Welsh. Hasty to Logan. Logan feigns to go one way then another. He's pirouettes round and is able to get the ball back. There's a free ball coming here for Kelso as well, because the referee's arm is outstretched, just signalling that there's an advantage to play. Melbourne protects the ball, looks to use his tush and get into space, and now it's Tweedy. Tweedy's got some space outside him. It's Archie Barber. He's been shepherded off the field of play, 5 metres away from the line, and it was a free ball to play with, and it was cute play. Melbourne perhaps took the sting out of that by the ball going to ground, but that was a great opportunity for Kelso, and in terms of the way they're approaching this game, they're blob on. Patterson in front of the upright, starts his run up, right-footed kick, good connection, and the assistant referee's flags are raised. Line out inside Kelso territory on that bank inside. It gives an opportunity for Rennick to lob it in towards the tail. Graham is the player asked to be risen into the sky as Lee Armstrong just splinters the Kelso defence, and for the first time Hawick have been able to breach that Kelso wall, and it's got them inside of the Kelso 22. The challenge now comes on because Callum Rennick was there in support. Welsh, outstretched arms demanding that ball is brought back for him as Shawn Muir acts as the pivot. Now Brunton gives it to Mitchell. Mitchell then just drives forward. He's been tackled well by Robson, and Hawick have had to concede a couple of metres there from Kelso's defence, which they were able to test for the first time in this game. Nicky Little, with the ball tucked under his arm, now charges forward. Brunton's got some options outside of one of them's Armstrong. The little kick of the heels again, back in field, and again he's breached this defence. Not one, not two, but three Kelso players beaten on his way towards that 5 metre line, and the support is there quickly. The ball is not out as sharply, but Shawn Muir now charges forward into Melbourne and Brown. Ball presented back, being scooped up by Welsh. He tips the ball on to Wilson, and that low stooping run, which we're most used to seeing from Jay Linton, has been deployed there by Wilson. And now Andrew Mitchell, 20 tries so far in the regular season, gives the ball back, and Shawn Muir now picks and goes and tries to burrow forward towards that whitewash, not able this time, and then they go the other way, and Hawick are over the whitewash, but the referee having a good look at this. It's been brought back. Play continues here at Mansfield Park. There's no try given. Hawick still have the ball in hand, and they pick and look to go. And then Keith Melbourne's been able to turn over the ball on his own goal line. He's carried it back, but great defence there from from Kelso, because it looked like Hawick had been able to just exploit that gap on the blind side. Matty Douglas, the head coach of Hawick, is on the touchline of the bank, and just where the forest starts to, I didn't know if he was maybe orienteering or if he's keeping an eye on this game, but he's certainly communicating with the coaching staff in the dugout area. He's got a keen eye on the game from the corner.
Always likes to watch it from behind the post, doesn't he?
There's a few coaches like to use that tactic to try and see where the gaps are in defence. He's taking a bit of shelter from the rain, which has came back on here as Welsh feeds the scrum, and now Linton plucks the ball up. He's charging forward. He manages to just create that huge gap forward to Welsh. Welsh in the corner, Hawick in the lead. And it was as easy as you like from that scrum. Solid platform for Linton just to attract the defence in. It created that huge chasm in defence, and then Ford with an easy 2-on-1 to deploy Welsh in the corner, and that's his 6th try of the season.
Yeah, chalk that assist down. Well, Kirk Ford, the last touch prior to the try scorer, but chalk that as an assist down to Jay Linton. As you mentioned before, Dale, he's been pretty quiet so far in this game, but that's what he brings. He picked up off the back of the scrum. Kelso defenders, in fairness to them, he could have steamrolled them, he could have passed it, he had options there, and that's what caught them a wee bit cold, and he went for the right option, and in went Charlie Welsh, and like I said before, brilliant riposte from Hawick after being under the cosh for a number of minutes.
And Jay Linton was one of those players in that defeat against Glasgow Hawks in October, and you think how far he has come in that 5-year time. Obviously 5 years younger at the time, and he's certainly shown the maturity there by being able to just attract about 3 Kelso defenders just fixed on the big powerhouse at the tail of that scrum.
That's what he did, he just fixed them.
Totally
you
fixed them.
You could see it from here.
Feet planted,
yep.
Kirk Ford, 2-on-1, and now Kirk Ford is lining up the conversion attempt on the 22, 4 metres in from the touchline, right-footed kick, looking to try and curl this round, and there's a slow anticipation and gasp from the Hawick supporters because they watched that every inch creep over the bar. And again, another accurate kick from Kirk Ford. It means it's Hawick 10, Kelso 6. Murray Hastie was there looking to try and gather the ball, and he was under pressure from Fraser Rennick, but Woodcock just manages to pick the ball off the ground and charge forward, buy a bit of time for his Kelso team. And again, I feel like my neck's been craning towards that left-hand side, and Murray Hastie puts a spiralling kick, and take it from there, Robin.
Yeah, beauty of a kick from the wand that is the left foot of Murray Hastie. Kelso not really going anywhere in attack there, and he sent it down into the 22, and Hawick with a wee bit of defensive work to do now.
Ashton Asante is coming on for Terry Logan. I think looking to perhaps keep a little bit of charge in the battery there for the big front row forward. Thrown into the line out, Cammy Brown is lifted, brought down, and then the ball starts to filter its way through the heart of that maul, and it's got a bit of head of steam here against this Hawick side as they're managing to tiptoe themselves towards that 22. It's trudged forwards, it's about now 10 metres away from that Hawick line. It's got momentum, and the Hawick players are on the back foot trying to get back, recycle themselves to withstand this onslaught here from Kelso, and again camped deep inside the Hawick half. They'll be hoping to try and make the advantage count here. The penalty, which has just been awarded, doesn't give them the lead again, but this is Cup Rugby. 36 minutes gone here at Mansfield Park in this Premiership playoff semi-final. Hawick 10, Kelso 6, and Dwayne Patterson is currently lining up a penalty attempt at the uprights in a familiar position from his previous ones as the rain still drizzles down here. And there's another couple of points to add to the tally, 3 if you will. That's not a couple, but it's Patterson with the penalty attempt, which means it's nip and tuck here. 10 points to Hawick, 9 to Kelso. And I said before the game, if Kelso can stay in the hunt after about 20-25 minutes, that's going to be the story of the game. There's 1 point in it, we're approaching half time in a few minutes. This is a border semi-final, isn't it?
It is. It's everything that we hoped for, isn't it? It's, and you know, I think they've done more than stay in the game. They've taken the game to Hawick, and this is as nip and tuck as you can imagine. It'd take a brave man now to call this one.
The restart is a scruffy one from Kirk Ford. He's not happy with it as he casually trudges his way back into the position in his own half. There's going to be a throw into the line out to Kelso. It just went over the head of Keith Melbourne and then just skewed off the field of play as the umbrellas start popping up over that far bank inside. I think anybody over the age of 40's got a brolly up. Anybody under the age is running about with a ball in their hand and having a bit of fun, and no care in the world about the weather that's starting to drizzle down here at Mansfield Park. But the ball has just been flat back on the Hawick side. Welsh manages to gather it at the second attempt, sliding on the deck. The ball just squirms out of his grasp, but the kick not able to be nudged downfield for Kelso, and now it's been given to Dalton Redpath. He's been challenged back the way. Good play from Kelso, and the ball came back on their side, and Tate then puts the box kick in. It goes towards Kirk Ford, who stamps the ball down and just gets it under control and then launches it back towards the Kelso half. Patterson, as trusty as you like, is underneath that, spiral up and under. This is going to be a big tester here for Lee Armstrong, an experienced inside centre. He manages to get the ball at a second attempt. It's been knocked back as it just bounced off his chest, and those spiral bombs are terrible for any player in the backfield to try and gather. To keep a keen eye on it, and especially in conditions like this, it makes it that much more challenging. As Kelso defend as Hawick trudge the ball forward towards that 10-metre line. Gareth Welsh just escorting the ball to the back of the snaked ruck here to get a feign for a box kick, and gives it to Kyle Brunton, who kicks it into the sky. Now looking to test Robbie Tweedy, but Patterson is pulled rank. He grabs it, tries to offload to Archie Barber. It's went off the field of play. It's going to be a throw into the line out for Hawick, just directly in front of us on the halfway line. Just over the halfway line. Hawick 10, Kelso 9 in this playoff semi-final live on Rugby Radio, and this time it was a chance for Kelso to flat the ball back from Woodcock, but he's just knocked it on, and then Tweedy's been asked to take a couple of seconds on the ground to gather his thoughts, because Shawn Muir's just dumped him down as Lee Armstrong splinters the defence for the second time in this game. And that is when it started to look its porous best for a Hawick side. When they give the ball to Armstrong, I think he's perhaps one of those players, it's almost like the Jay Linton scenario, that they'll be so wary of the weaponry of Andrew Mitchell at outside centre. 20 tries this season, it's over a try a game. We're in the final closing stages of this first half here at Mansfield Park, and Tate has just kicked the ball off the field of play, and I think that is going to bring the first half to a crescendo. Hawick get down the tunnel at half time here at Mansfield Park. It's Hawick 10, Kelso 9. The scoreboard, which reads at the moment 10-9, there'll be locked eyes on that for the duration of this battle here for the next 40 minutes, and that'll dictate the narrative of this game. As Kirk Ford gets play underway, it's been kicked to Brown, and Brown looks to try and evade the clutches of the on-rushing Andrew Mitchell, who does well to shackle the Kelso number 8, Tate. Distributes to Hasty, right-footed kick downfield, not able to get a lot of distance, and again, that just gets hung up slightly as it came off the boot of Murray Hasty outside of his own 22 now. goes to the tail, and Dalton Redpath was outstretched. The wraparound there from Rennick's lining up. It was Callum to Fraser Rennick who gave the ball to Andrew Mitchell, who looked to try and breach this Kelso defensive line yet again. The referee's got a keen eye on this breakdown because it's very slow to come back from Welsh, and Welsh gives it to Shawn Muir, the captain, with his first carry of this second half. Welsh stoops again and gave it to Callum Rennick. He's been wrapped round there by Keith Melbourne. Welsh now just opting to look against the grain, but goes with the passage of play again as Ford gives the ball to Lee Armstrong. Kirk Ford, who's lined up as first receiver. That's going to be a huge factor in this second half, the continuity of that partnership in that area of the pitch. Brunton succumbed to an injury, so replaced by Bailey Donaldson, who's only played 3 times in Premiership rugby so far this season. A big tester in the return to the squad. Ford gets Redpath offloads to Rennick, but Rennick just tips the ball on. He's going to follow this through, but the referee spotted there was a knock on. Ewan Knox now. The ball hoisted above his head. He played a lot of youth rugby at Hawick, just wasn't able to find any opportunity at his hometown club, and he's certainly served Kelso well, but he served Hawick well on that occasion because he's overthrown at the line out. It went back to Kelso. The ball squirms out the side of that ruck, and the referee has signalled there that there was a scoot back at that breakdown. That wind is strong down in the Hawick half, and the ball has been launched towards Linton, and the maul just collapses but then gathers itself again, and now the green machine is starting to turn. It's starting to look well oiled because we've got Rennick charging forward, just a breakaway group from the side of that maul as Welsh finds Ford. Ford's got some options there. One of them is Mitchell, just splintering through the defence. It takes a couple of players. He's taken Bruce MvNeil for a bit of a ride towards that try line now as Welsh digs down. He gives it to Rennick. He's got his brother outside of him as well. He looks to charge towards that line, but Melbourne just stops him short. The players filtering around. Muir gives it to Ronan McKean in the corner, and we've seen McKean squeezing in that corner before at the most pivotal of times for his side. And tries have been few and far between for the winger so far this season, but that is an important one. He's doubled his tally, and he squeezes in the left-hand corner here at Mansfield Park. And Hawick, after taking the gamble to go for the corner and relinquishing possession, eventually their experience pays dividends, and they go in the corner for a try. It's Hawick 15, Kelso 9. The screen just directly in front of us just illustrates how many people are watching on from that bank inside, and joined by a whole cluster of people on this far side as well in the stand. It's a great occasion.
Brilliant. I used to come here as a kid. Dale, my mum's from Hawick, and that's how I remember it on that far side as a kid.
Woodcock gathers the ball at the lineouts, and then Patterson, centre field, just distributes to Tweedy, who's coming off his wing, and now Barber, he gives it to Thompson. He's got a chance to try and nudge it downfield, but it's just ricocheted off some green shirts and shorts, and then found its place on the Hawick 10 metre line. Now Fraser Rennick, and as Robin alluded to before, the Rennicks are starting to be a constant in this second half. Ford now out the back from Linton, and also Wilson, who were running that tight line, gives it to Bailey Donaldson. He just stabs it downfield. He's found Patterson waiting there, good footwork, and launched back in field. Cammy Brown has to scamper back, but Tweedy is having to slide towards that ball to try and protect it for this Kelso side, who are now just outside of their own 22. Have certainly conceded a lot of territory and possession in the last few minutes of this game. Tate slowly just gets it in a position that he's going to be able to box kick it downfield. He lumps it into the sky. Waiting there is Ford, who's taking place on the wing. Melbourne perhaps clumsily tried to pretend that he wasn't going to compete for that ball to make a nuisance of himself, but Hawick have numbers up here, and Armstrong floats the ball into the path of Mitchell, and Mitchell, not using the support outside him, goes back in field, but there's Hawick players just flooding through, but Mitchell just gets caught up in this boggy, clatchy ground here at Mansfield Park. Shawn Muir then steadies the ship and just sets that point of contact just outside the Kelso 22. Mitchell, acting as an auxiliary scrum half, gives it to Wilson, who throws a dummy, then just splinters in between the defence. Mitchell yet again gets the ball, but he's been wrapped up there by Thompson. This time it's James Thompson. Many a Thompson in this Kelso side, but the winger managing to stop any danger coming that was ensuing from the Hawick outside centre. Again, a slow attritional game plan being deployed here from Hawick. Ford, he's got some options there. One of them is Fraser Rennick. It's been knocked on there, and Melbourne gets his big Irish mitts to the ball and just scoops it up, and Patterson thinks he sniffs an opportunity on that far side. Tweedy draws the 2-on-1, and then Barber lumps it downfield, keeps it inside as well because Ford is back there for Hawick and inside his own half. and he's hearing it laterally across the pitch, but Barber has got him for company and wraps round him like a belt and hauls him to ground, and Kirkford almost running into a bit of danger there, but Kelso putting pressure on the Hawick fullback. Hawick now slowing play down to allow Welsh a little bit of time to give the ball to Callum Rennick, who has his shirt stretched and tested to the limit, because these Kelso players certainly know they do not want to lose sight of him and let him escape their grasp as the ball is touched in flight. Waiting back there is Tweedy, and he casually looked to try and scoop the ball off the ground, but has just fumbled it forward under no pressure at all. So on the 10-metre line inside his own half, Kelso have coughed up possession and given it back to Hawick. The ball being put into the scrum here at Mansfield Park. Hawick 15, Kelso 9, and the Hawick scrum is starting to, I was going to say walk forward, but it's almost at a jog now as Kelso are being marched back, and Andy Tate flaps the ball as it was being deployed at the back of that scrum, and now the scrum halves are having a little coming together now. The referee and Cammy Brown pushing Welsh out of the road, and yeah, it's always a battle between us two scrum halves. Perhaps disperses a little bit quicker when it's the forwards, but it's been a penalty to Hawick. Ford from a distance out just in front of his own 10-metre line hacks it towards the upright. It's been closely watched by the match officials, and they are happy that that's a successful kick as well. So Hawick stretched their lead here, 18 points to 9 with that penalty attempt from Kirkford, and it's been a great start to the second half for the home side here, as they all take a knee and get ready to lock horns. And they stoop down and grasp on the shorts, and then the shoulders collide at the set piece centre field, and it's a quick scrum there. Bruce MvNeil having to work very hard to try and get that back. It's Cammy Brown actually, but it crumbles, so it allows Patterson to spiral the ball downfield, and he's looking to try and do what Kirkford couldn't. It's just went and stopped and spun on the ground as Bailey Donaldson returns it centre field. He looks to keep it in the field of play. Patterson, who's stopping, players still on rushing as he kicks it into the sky, and this is a challenging bomb yet again, and Welsh is having a little look at this. Thompson, who's leapt into the sky to gather the ball, it caught Gareth Welsh unawares. He's gathered it, he's been challenged in the air by the scrum half. It was great awareness from the Kelso winger and perhaps desperation from the Hawick scrum half, and again the sides scragging at the shirts, sticking up for their respective teammates here. The referee in the middle of it all, looking to try and get some sense into these players to make sure it doesn't boil over and they start to retreat back into their huddles. But what great awareness there from Thompson, who just jumped into the sky.
Tackle in the air by 9 Green.
Yeah.
14 has landed dangerously, but it's on his back and upper back, so it'll be a yellow card and a penalty.
Agreed.
Okay. Captain.
This is going to be an interesting facet of the game, but let's hear what the match official is going to say.
Well, first of all, we're going to speak about what happened after the incident.
Right.
Okay. Number 6 has ran in again.
It wasn't 6.
Okay. He was involved. Sorry. Yes. It was 8. He's ran in this time. Okay. Still one of your players. Okay.
Okay.
And then you're like having to go at the air. I know he's pushed you. Let's keep the tempers down. All right.
Okay, fair enough.
We'll come back to the incident.
Yeah, it's okay.
It's tackle in the air. All right. Yeah. Yeah. He's landed on his back. It's a yellow card.
Welsh.
No.
Welsh going to get a yellow card there for that challenge in the air, because Thompson landed on his back, and we have found out that Frankie Robson's a clipe as well, because he's just dobbed Cammy Brown in it, perhaps maybe trying to keep a bit of heat off Bruce MvNeil, but it gives a chance for Patterson to nudge it in the corner, closer towards that Hawick try line, about 5 metres shy now with a throw into the line out.
Yeah, I think, Dale, that Kirkford is probably the best positional fullback in the league. Now he's playing 10 because of the injury to Brunton. There's an argument to say he marks that out the sky there.
Yes, very well spotted there, Robin, and I tend to agree with you as well. There was a pocket of space there as the ball thrown into the line out, gathered by Melbourne, and the ball is then just squirmed towards the ground, plucked up by Wilson. Shawn Muir has just been shackled and scragged to the ground as well. Rennick looks to pluck and go, but he's not able to do so because he's just relinquished the ball and knocked it on in contact, and opportunity there for Kelso, just not able to come to fruition because of some scrappy play at that driving maul. Andy Tate and Lee Armstrong, when they were playing Borders rugby together years ago for representative, I didn't think they'd be opposing each other at a scrum half position, but from the wraparound there, Lee Armstrong just hacks it off the field to play outside of his 22, and obviously two players who have came through the ranks together, very similar ages, and both served their clubs very, very well. And it does look like there's going to be a replacement in the front row for Kelso, because Terry Logan has been plugged into the charger, and I think he's back up to full charge, so it means that Ashton Asante is going to be withdrawn and Terry Logan returns to the field of play at what will be a pivotal time. 17 minutes left in the second half here. It's currently Hawick 18, Kelso 9 in this Premiership playoff semi-final. An opportunity for both of these sides to contest for a final. Hawick looking to be back-to-back champions. Kelso looking to try and be champions for the first time since the late 80s. And from the line out, well secured, and now the drive coming on from Kelso. It's now over that 22 metre line, the ball just the other side, and now it's just over into Hawick territory. It's well secured, it's firm, there's perhaps, if anything, a little bit exposed there for Knox, and it's managed to stay there. Bruce MvNeil is trying to get himself in a position to make a nuisance of himself, but Hawick all over the ball. The referee just signalling that he wants to come back on the side of Hawick. A couple of options there. Terry Logan, he gets his first opportunity to run with the ball in hand, and now Tate stoops again, but the penalty has went the way of the home side. The sealing off there from the supporting Kelso players, and I think that perhaps does illustrate, if you commit so much to other elements of the game, some things do slip, and I think one thing slipping for Kelso so far this afternoon is the pace that they're getting to the breakdown. I think Kelso still have a chance here, and probably sniff that they're still in this game, but they're thrown to the line out, being well gathered there by Sutherland, brought down, and then the Maul starts tiptoeing over that 10 metre line, starting to crane forward. Kelso looking to try and get bodies legally in the position to make it as difficult as possible, but it still trudges forward. Rennick's at the back of that, Muir is joining, he just swims his way over the hooker and then breaks away free. Ewan Thompson has to be the plug in the defence there, and Lee Armstrong playing scrum half gives it to Callum Rennick, and he's almost through that defensive line, but Kelso do well to scrag, and Hawick now down to 14 men have their tails up. Ford kicks it across, and this is going to be challenging for Barber. He's got time, and he calls the mark there as well. No advantage coming, so it's going to go back for the infringement earlier on in that passage of play. Rennick with the ball above his head launches it into the line out to Stuart Graham, brought down, and now this Hawick pack starts to congregate and cluster and march its way towards that Kelso line. The heels are digging in black and white, but the green machine keeps rolling forward. It's splintered away. And Bruce MvNeil, one player there defensively at the heart of everything. The advantage coming for Hawick as well. The ball not coming back, and the referee with that high hoisted arm in the air looking and communicating with Bruce MvNeil as he lies on the ground and starts to rise up. Dalton Redpath now playing scrum half, tipped on there to Shawn Muir. He just runs into the body of Terry Logan. Lee Armstrong gives the ball to Kirk Ford, a new half-back pair in there, and then tipped on. Sutherland finds Callum Rennick, and then Callum Rennick is just airing it towards the line. He's broke through a challenge there. Hawick are now in behind the defensive line. Can they score again? The knock on there has come from Hawick, and there's an opportunity gone begging. Ball ready to throw into the line out there. It's been brought down, and again the Hawick players just congregate en masse at that drive and maul, which crumbles against the Kelso pressure, which repelled them from their own try line. Lightfoot to Muir. The chasm is opened in the defence, but plugged quickly by Bruce MvNeil, who scampered over to stop the Hawick captain getting that final score. Redpath now in the shadow of the Kelso uprights charges forward. It's been plucked from the ground. Rennick over the whitewash, but the referee signalling there's an infringement in there. And there's going to be a put into the scrum for Kelso. So it's shaping up to be a Hawick-Currie Premiership final, which we saw last year. And it was a dramatic climax to that game. We're perhaps not going to have the same end and excitement to this semi-final, but what an effort this Kelso side have put on against the double winners, the undefeated champions of last year, as Lightfoot travels with the ball, gives it to Redpath. He's running into a little bit of traffic because there's Kelso bodies just plugged in that gap. MvNeil now making a nuisance of himself at the breakdown, not for the first time in this game. Sutherland charges forward, aided and abetted by some Hawick teammates. Armstrong yet again just breaches and weaves his way through that Kelso defensive line. And Jay Linton looking just to launch himself into contact and bounce off with Frankie Robson, not able to. His Lightfoot gives the ball to Mitchell. He now has the opportunity to try and weave himself into a more favourable position, just not able to this time, as Lightfoot gives the ball to Muir, who's wrapping round, bundles his way over a couple of players, and now Hawick are in behind, can't get the sting in this ball for the second phase. Bruce MvNeil is up and again intelligently in the passage of play just to cut off that ball, because the ball was out from the breakdown. And now Jay Linton travels with the ball, gives the ball in the wraparound to Dalton Redpath, who again has that big paw ready to offload the ball, just not able to find a runner on the shoulder. Lightfoot now gives it to Ford, or almost gives it to Ford. He has to travel, throws the dummy, and he's been engulfed by Kelso's shirt, so Morgan Tate has to get there. He's almost going to act as scrum half, but stooped over the ball, I think, is captain Shawn Muir. He's going to truck it forward into the Heart and Melbourne, and other Kelso players who are there looking to try and withstand and repel this attacking effort. The ball is squirmed out the ruck. Lightfoot just launches it to Ford. Ford's got some players outside. One of them's Armstrong, a little kick of the heels yet again. And he looks to try and disrupt this Kelso defence. Hawick still have the ball in hand. They've conceded a couple of metres in territory, but they still have possession. And as long as they've got possession, they've got a very favourable lead. And Morgan Tate just splintering, taking the ball off a Welsh. And now Hawick closer and closer towards this line. Lightfoot casually waiting to deploy the ball from the breakdown. He gives it to Rennick. He presents the ball back. Lightfoot travels, gives the ball to Dalton Redpath, whose outstretched arm dots the ball down, and that's curtains for Kelso. And Hawick are going to seal their place in the Premiership final with a try at the death. And Dalton Redpath, who's had some engine on him this afternoon, forward with the final say in this game. He's already slotted one from the touchline, right-footed kick. It's low into a swirly wind, and it's successful. And Kirk Ford doing Kirk Ford things from the touchline and leading his side into the Premiership final, because that is the final action of this game, and it finishes here 25 points to 9.
Past kind of 2-3 weeks we've been focusing on getting a good start and trying to, nullify the crowd here at Mansfield, and I think to our boys' credit, we've probably done that to a certain extent. But the big message at half time was, however well we played in the first 40 was never going to be good enough to win the game. We knew we had to go to another level, and just unfortunately we couldn't do that.
It was everything we expected early doors, what we spoke about for the last 2 weeks. We knew they would come firing out the traps, and they did. Look, fair play to them. I thought first half they maybe even edged it. They had a lot of the ball, and I thought they were really good. But second half we showed what we were all about and why we're champions at the end of the day.
We prepared well, and we knew exactly what was coming. We knew it was going to be one of the toughest games we've played this season, some of the boys in their career, to be fair, and it certainly was. It was great to play in. It was a great spectacle and thoroughly enjoyable, and I'm hoping our boys get a taste for that and they quite enjoyed it and they really want to kick on, and these experiences can only make players better, hopefully, and listen, we'll have a good few beers tonight. We wish Hawick all the best in the final. I'm sure they'll do well. But listen, we came here making sure we didn't have any regrets, and listen, we don't have any regrets. We fired as many shots as we could. At the end of the day, the better team won.
I think first half we let the emotions get the better of us. Their discipline was poor, especially first 20-25 minutes. When they've got a goal kicker like Dwayne Patterson, it's silly penalties, you're 3 points and you're chasing it. So we spoke just no letting the emotions get to us. We're experienced, we've dealt with them, but still a border derby and a semi-final is a different kettle of fish to what we faced last year.
We believed we could win that. We can take a lot of credit from it, but we firmly believed that we could win here today, and we wouldn't have came if we didn't. But unfortunately, you come against really good sides and they're in a great vein of form, and we've got to give them credit. And as I said before, the better team won, but I just hope our young lads who just don't get fazed by anything, push us older boys on, make us want to be better. The younger lads just don't seem to get fazed, as I say, by anything, and hopefully we can just grow and grow.
We got our structures going, we got our big men around the corner and over the gain line, and it kind of started to open up for us. I still, if I'm honest, I still felt we left a few out there and we left a couple of levels still to go through, but at the end of the day, knockout rugby is all about winning.